Civilization, which is a campus youth group that organizes, educates, and trains students in the defense of Western civilization. And our main issues of concern are mass immigration, multiculturalism, and racial preferences on America's college campuses. The subject of today's event is, will immigration kill the GOP? One of the things I want to say right off the bat is this is not a debate, because at CPAC we don't have debates on whether Obamacare should be repealed. We don't have debates on whether abortion should be an issue of core concern to the conservative movement, and I don't think we should have debates on this either, because frankly I think unless we get it right on this issue, none of the rest matters. Unless we solve the problem of illegal immigration, a lot of the other panels here are arguing about the in-flight movie while the plane is crashing into the mountain. So, today we have a distinguished panel of guests, and we're going to start with Congressman Tom Tancredo, who really needs no introduction, and we will allow him to Congressman Tancredo will give his remarks, and then because he has to head out a bit early, we'll pause for some questions directly to him.
Sure.
So, Congressman Tom Tancredo.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. We'll come around over here and bring it a little closer. First of all, thank you very much for doing this and for having what I consider to be, I certainly agree with Kevin, a very important topic for us to deal with, because well, it's not surprising, I suppose, but I see in the paper now, every once in a while, somebody like, Newt Gingrich or Mr. Coleman, incorrectly analyzing several things about the votes that were in Colorado, in my race in particular, but generally completely off base when it comes to talking about what is the impact of the Hispanic vote on our races, and more importantly, what's the impact of the immigration debate on that vote? Now, it is an issue with which, of course, I have been involved for quite some time, even before I came to Congress in 1998. But when I did, I could tell, and it was really, at that time, almost anecdotal. I mean, the people that you would meet, the people that would come up to you on the streets, and the people that would send you emails and that sort of thing who were Hispanic, and talk about how much they supported our efforts. But it was, again, anecdotal. What could you say about that? I have a lot of people whose last name is Hispanic who in fact tell me all the time that they support what I'm doing. But I knew that the conventional wisdom on this issue was wrong. And that indeed there is not a monolithic vote within the Hispanic community. They do not vote the way that, let's say, African Americans do in the United States. You can count on them for 90-some% all the time, for Democrats. That is not true with Hispanics. And the first time that we saw concrete, absolute, undeniable, empirical proof that what I was saying was right was when this little thing came up in Arizona. A little bill in Arizona, right? Senate Bill 1070. And this was the most highly publicized piece of legislation, on our side anyway, that I'd ever seen, really. I mean, nationwide attention. Every group that you can think of weighing in on it in typical fashion, depending on where they were coming from. The left opposing it and calling it the end of civilization as they know it, and it could be for them. If we continue this little left, it could be that. But what was fascinating, of course, and something that the left still can't get, and even people on our side can't get, because they've chanted the mantra for so long, that it can't work, you can't get it, no way, impossible, will be seen as racists. Not Tom Tancredo. Don't follow Tom Tancredo's lead. Tom Tancredo doesn't speak for the Republican Party. Well, that may be true, but I speak for most Americans. I'll tell you that. Yeah. And so there we were with a situation where Arizona comes up with Senator Pearson. Comes up with this great bill, and by the way, there are several others that they passed that people don't pay enough attention to. One is one telling the public schools no more of this multiculturalism garbage, which is a wonderful bill that nobody knows about. But this this thing passed, and they start polling on it, polling before and of course afterwards, and what do they find? 60-some% of Hispanics in Arizona support the bill. Oh, what does this do to the worldview of all these people who keep chanting the mantra? Well, how do they explain it? This is not just any bill. This is not even just a little tiny bill adjusting a tiny little thing on the immigration front. This is a major, perhaps the most significant attack on illegal immigration that I have seen, certainly from the States. And it was billed as that by the national media. So where did these people come from? How can they be doing this? Well, it's because, of course, they see the same problems we see. For the most part, these are folks who say, I've been here a long time. My people were here in Colorado. I can tell you, lots of Hispanic folks were there long before my people got to Colorado. And they resent the fact that they are oftentimes identified by people as being, well, they may be here illegally. After all, look at all the stuff, the problems. They resent it too. And they resent the fact that the people who are coming here illegally end up with the same benefits, same goodies, if you will, that they got only by way of being American citizens. And they resent it, as they well should. And so then they took polls all over the country. And guess what? They found same thing. Colorado, 60-some% of all Hispanics supported the bill. So it comes to our race. And this is the one I think Gingrich talked about, and Coleman said, well, look what happened to Colorado, and Tancredo shows us that this doesn't fly. Well, if they bother to actually analyze what happened in Colorado, they would see that it had nothing to do with this issue. I mean, certainly I was running, and that was one part of our campaign, but relatively small. I mean, we had a lot of other issues to talk about. But it is also true that there's no one perhaps better known in Colorado as being a hardcore on this issue of illegal immigration than I am. So yeah, definitely I was kind of the poster boy for it. Even though, as I say, we didn't make a big deal out of it during the campaign because we had so many other issues to deal with. Well, there was one poll. I am only aware of one poll. And it was a Rasmussen poll that actually identified the vote breakdown between myself and the guy who was running against, the Democrat I was running against. His name was Hickenlooper. He is the now governor of Colorado. And I had 41% of the Hispanic vote, and he had 40%. Okay? Now, the reason I lost, and by the way, lady back here is not the reason. The lady back here is the lady that ran the campaign and can tell you, and she will, I'm sure, tell you a lot more about the intricacies of it. But the fact is, I was running against not just a Democrat. I had to get into the race with two months before the election for a variety of reasons, as I say, we can certainly go into. But the point is, I got in 2 months before an election, and I had to run as a third-party candidate. It's too late to run as a Republican. Because the Republican candidate, by the way, was so flawed, to use that term, being kind, flawed, and so flawed that by the end of the campaign, the chairman of the Republican Party said, we have never, the state of Colorado, in the state's history, the Republican Party has never fielded a worse candidate for governor, and any vote for him is a wasted vote. And he ended up getting 11% of the vote. The Republican got 11%. I got 38, something like that. Well, the fact is, that's the problem. I mean, that's what we had to deal with. It wasn't the Hispanic vote in Colorado that did anything to my campaign in a negative way. We had absolutely no funding. We had nothing from, certainly, the Constitution Party on the ticket on which I was running, no financial support. We raised, what?
1.3.
$1.3 million. They spent $5 or $6 million. Would have spent a lot more if we had been, I think, a more significant threat. But on the other hand, we could have been a more significant threat if we had had a substantial. And again, it was like 2 weeks. And at the end, the polling was at the end, we were indeed either ahead or 1 point behind at the night of the election. The problem was we had had a month of early voting, and all those early votes went into the hopper, and they were not mine. And polls just kept moving like this until the very end, when we had every Republican supporter now coming on board, you know, and Sarah Palin and Michelle Malkin. Michelle Malkin and. Everybody that, you know, we would have hoped would have been there at the beginning were eventually there at the end. And so I think we did our best, and I think it was a good showing. But my point is, it's got nothing. It's now used as the stalking horse by people who want to, for whatever reason, continue to portray this issue as something that divides the Hispanic community and will turn them against Republicans. It is simply untrue. It's just not an empirically provable fact. And yeah, you know, Republicans get 35% of the Hispanic vote generally. Well, that's true, but they get 35% of the Hispanic votes whether you're the most pro-amnesty Republican or not. You know, John McCain did not do that well, if you recall. What more do they want from a Republican candidate?
Jeb Bush.
Yeah, Jeb Bush. You know, so what did I didn't see? What did Newt Gingrich say? I guess I missed it. Or Coleman about John McCain's vote and lack of Hispanic support. What was that all about? You know, what more could he have done? So what I'm pointing out is that, you know, you will actually gain votes if you are truthful about the issue, if they know you're not talking about that this has got nothing to do with race, and certainly they know with me that it has nothing to do with race, ethnicity, any of that junk. It's got nothing to do with how I feel about it or why I talk about it. A lot of other things. But that's a situation that existed in our race, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention, try to clear the air about it and all that. And to tell you that it is an issue that resonates. It still does with the majority of Americans. We got lots of, believe this or not, we got lots and lots of Democrat votes in this gubernatorial election as a result of my position on that issue. Now, I don't know to what extent the fact that I actually support the legalization of marijuana may have hurt my cause, but you know, it's a great talk radio subject, but probably not all that wonderful for a campaign. But I mean, that played into it someplace too, I'm sure. But my point is that the illegal immigration thing is just it's not the deal they think it is, and they try to divert it. I cannot tell you their motivation. I don't know. Maybe they just really believe that it's the truth. But as I say, I encourage them to look carefully and stop making statements like that, because that pandering will get you nowhere in these elections, and it shouldn't. And you start that, and believe me, people turn you off, and they should. So, anyway, that's what I have to say about it.
A lot of it.
Oh.